At Karrikins Group, we believe that powerful storytelling is a powerful leadership skill. Learning to tell great stories to help your people make sense of ambiguous things and stay aligned to ambitious goals can really take you far. Powerful stories are the intersection of data and narrative. It's where those two things come together, and you're using metaphor, you're using analogies, you're using personal experiences together with key data points that help people to put things in context. When you're telling a powerful story, you bring those two things together really effectively. Let me just give you a quick example. This is a story that I tell when I'm encouraging leaders to lean into the power of visualization. Now, a lot of leaders, when I talk to them about visualizing how they lead, they kind of look at me like I have three heads. They're not really sure that that's for them. But let me tell you about this one leader that I worked with a few years ago. He was the head of a $10 billion business unit at a fairly large company. It was about a Fortune 1500 company, not quite in the Fortune 500, but it was pretty big. And he was the head of the biggest business unit. And he had quarterly reviews with his people. And in these quarterly reviews, he would always get so frustrated because in the meeting, they would go totally off the rails and they would end up on different topics. They wouldn't follow the agenda that he had asked them to follow. And they would end up having all of these different kinds of conversations. I asked him if I could sit in and observe one of the meetings. And then I went and talked with 6 of his people about what their experiences were in those meetings. Here's what I learned. In talking with those 6 people, I learned that in their opinion, he was the reason that everything got mucked up during the meetings and that they ended up off agenda in a 3-hour meeting. They wouldn't make it through the first third of the agenda. And it was super frustrating for everybody. The 6 people in his organization that I talked to shared with me that they felt like they got bombarded by him. He would ask them questions that weren't part of the preparation. He would speculate or ruminate about things. He would share stories about things that weren't relevant to the topic at hand. And so he was all over the map. And then he would pick his head up and say, oh, we haven't made it through the agenda. What's happening? But they were trying to keep up with his ideation during the meeting. When I shared this with him, both my personal observation and my conversation with his 6 people, he was shocked to learn that he might be actually the person who was taking everybody off agenda. I asked him to do me a favor, and before the next meeting, before the next QBR meeting, to take 3 minutes, just 3 minutes out of his day, right before the meeting, to visualize himself staying on agenda and staying on topic. And when his mind started to wander, that he would pull himself back and to just visualize that process for himself before he walked into the meeting. Now, I always say there is no fairy dust, there's only hard work. So 3 minutes of visualization once did not fix the whole problem. But do you know what? That QBR went better than any of the others. I went back and talked to the individuals who participated, and they all said, you know what? We made it through almost 2/3 of the agenda, and it felt so much better because we actually stayed on topic and we were prepared for the conversations that we were having. I asked him how it went, and he said, well, you know, it was interesting. I actually felt myself coming back to the agenda a couple of times. I said to him, you know what, just stick with it. About 6 months later, he had been then through a number of QBRs because he had multiple people reporting to him going through that process. And he had really stuck with the 3-minute visualization exercise beforehand. There were a couple of times when he didn't do it. And he said to me, you know, Julie, when I didn't do it, I didn't do as good a job in the meeting. Visualization is a powerful tool. It works. Professional athletes use it, speakers use it, educators use it, writers use it, leaders can use it too. It's cheap, it's easy, it's accessible, and most importantly, it works. I hope you'll give it a try. That's my story about why you should try visualization. I've seen it work, and I know that it can work for you. Think about that compared to me just saying to you, here's all the data about visualization, or just saying to you, here's a bunch of kind of high-flying stories about visualization. I tried to pick and choose some key data points. How long were the meetings? How many people did I talk to? How many minutes did I ask him to participate? And I tried to give you some color commentary. How did the people feel about being in the meetings? What was his attitude about it? How does he show up in that process? In those little bits and pieces that get sprinkled throughout, I'm giving you a story that hopefully will be more memorable and will help you to really contextualize the ask to think about visualization in a different way. I hope that helps. We look forward to seeing you next time.